I've played a lot of Terraria. I remember I started out on the mobile edition more than 6 years ago, when the game was at around the midpoint of its life cycle. Of course, the version I played was far more outdated and janky than even the console or PC ports at the time, but even then, I was still brought in by the game's retro art style and unique gameplay. It was something I'd never really experienced before. Sure, I'd played Minecraft, but before about 1 or 2 years ago, I'd never really bothered with survival and wasn't really that into Minecraft. But Terraria was a different beast. Throughout the 6 years I've completed multiple playthroughs on the mobile edition, one entire playthrough on the PC edition, one playthrough on the console edition, and 2 playthroughs of the Calamity mod, along with a bunch of smaller playthroughs as well. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I've played a lot of Terraria, totaling to about 700 hours. But why? What differentiates it from other open world survival games? What makes it special? Well, first off, let's take a look at the game that everyone compares it to. Minecraft. It's a 3D sandbox survival game with a creative mode. Minecraft is so fun because of its emphasis on exploration and its infinite world generation. The farther you go, the more you find, and the more possibilities you have of changing your world and finding new things. And the fact that you can lose everything in your inventory is what makes you want to be able to survive longer. But what makes Terraria fun is different. Even though there is somewhat an emphasis on exploring and survival, here's its dirty little secret. It's not really a survival game. No, seriously, maybe for the first few nights of a playthrough and the first few nights of hard mode it could be considered a genuine survival game, but after that, its emphasis on survival is for the most part taken away. Sure, the enemies can be difficult and kill you a lot, but in normal mode, the only thing you lose is money, which honestly is pretty easy to get back. The world is also limited, so after you're done in the overworld, well, you're basically done with the overworld, unless you want to farm for specific enemies, travel to a specific place, or build something there. So most of the exploration takes place underground, mining for ores, finding chests and other items, and this is the first thing that made me love this game from the get-go. Its underground generation is almost truly unpredictable. This carries through the entire game, and it's a lot of fun. There's traps everywhere, and you have to watch out for new enemies and new biomes constantly. Playing Terraria for the first time really shocked me, because what I found in the world was so unpredictable, even back in those older versions. For example, when I first found the corruption, I jumped in and miraculously landed in a water pool. I didn't expect it to be so dangerous, because I was still just beginning, and I died almost instantly. The lax punishments on death make you want to get better stuff so you can go back to previous areas and actually take them on. This makes mining for ore and finding better weapons feel like it has purpose. Take the mysterious dungeon as well. After you fight Skeletron, this almost labyrinth-like dungeon with twists and turns along with a bunch of different enemies has a bunch of traps in it, but also a bunch of loot and rewards, which is another thing I love about this game. Terraria rewards curiosity. The more you go deeper into these biomes, the more you could find a chest or some rare enemy that drops a rare item. Of course, this comes with the risk that comes with going deeper, and the balancing of risk and reward makes this game a lot of fun. All these things coupled with the fact your world is so small makes you feel like you're in control of your own journey. You get your own items and power up at your own pace. And on that, another thing I really like about Terraria is the progression. Because even though it's based on a set order of bosses and events, the items you use are very customizable. You have 3 slots for armor, 5 slots for accessories, and a full inventory full of whatever you want. This gives you a lot of freedom to explore different playstyles and find what accessories, armor, and weapons work best for you. Even though the armor progression is very standard, there are many types of armors, with each having their drawbacks. Though it can be fun, I do personally find a lot of summoner stuff in this game to be kind of underused. It's definitely much more difficult to play the game like this, and it's mostly because there just isn't as many items for it as there are for say a ranged or melee player. Despite that, I still think it holds up compared to the others, and the enjoyment of a summoner playthrough definitely depends on gameplay preference. Of course, you aren't just stuck on any one of those playstyles. You can mix and match as you choose, which gives you even more freedom of choice. But now let's look at one of my favorite parts of the game, the boss battles and enemy progression. At first glance, the battle system in this game is pretty simple. You grind for a weapon or the materials for that weapon, and then use the weapon to fight the enemies or boss. Don't let it deceive you though, because it's definitely not easy. Every enemy has a unique attack pattern, even the slimes at the beginning of the game. And even though many of them are easy to learn, there's such a wide variety of enemies that it keeps you on your toes. Many are difficult to defeat when you first encounter them, like the menacing hoplites or seemingly terrifying bone serpents. This makes it pretty satisfying when you progress in the game and are able to squash them like they're insects later on. And of course, as the game goes on, the enemies only get tougher and tougher, especially in the jungle, where this is most apparent. The enemies in the jungle, such as the hornets and jungle slimes, are already pretty difficult, especially the first times you encounter them. And after hard mode begins, new and harder enemies spawn, such as the derplings and giant tortoises, which can be massive pains and makes you have to progress so you can take them on, along with learning their attacks so that they can't catch you by surprise. A very similar progression is present in the boss battles, which is one of the best aspects of the game. Every single boss, and I do mean every boss, has unique attacks and are difficult and fun in their own ways. King Slime is super easy, but you have to make sure you're able to avoid his bouncing without getting so far away he teleports to you, along with killing and avoiding his minion slimes. With Eye of Cthulhu, you have to keep in mind when he charges at you, keep in mind his mini eyes, and so on and so forth for all the other bosses. Beside the final boss of the game, which is more of a bullet hell than anything else, you can pretty much defeat every boss by setting up a good arena and figuring out their attack patterns. This gives a sense of satisfaction, as because you studied the boss and created space yourself to fight it, it feels justified that you end up winning. Most of the time, the bosses in Terraria, especially in Master and Expert mode, do require skill to win, unless it's Golem. Even the mechanical bosses feel extremely different from their pre-hard mode counterparts, with there being many layers added to each. Skeletron Prime has 4 arms, each using a different kind of attack. The Destroyer is now a giant singular machine that kills everything in its path and releases a bunch of laser drones, and the twins are just 2 Eye of Cthulhu's with flamethrowers and lasers. It's awesome. Even the final boss, though it can be pretty random and unfair at times, can be defeated with enough skill and also some dumb luck, along with getting good endgame items. Also, side note, even though I don't personally build in this game, the building is a lot of fun, and you can build some pretty cool things. Also, the NPC system is pretty good. All the NPCs are pretty charming, and it's cool buying stuff from them. I mean, not too much to say there. Overall, Terraria is an awesome game, and definitely sits at the top as one of my favorite games of all time, if not my favorite game of all time. The best part of Terraria is that every playthrough is different. I can come back months, maybe even years after a playthrough and start it up again because of its diversity in items and armors and playstyles. The fun boss battles, interesting progression system, engaging gameplay, and beautiful retro graphics elevate this game to a level very few others have managed to reach for me. Though I honestly do play a lot more Minecraft than Terraria nowadays, I still hold Terraria in my heart for being the first of its kind that I've ever really played, and introduced me to a world I was never able to fully let go, replaying it every so often to experience it again. And with Tmod Loader being available on Steam, it's so easy to play it in various new, fun ways, even after the vanilla experience is over, though the vanilla experience can easily last hundreds of hours as well. And in the end, that is why I love Terraria.